Good morning and welcome to the third webinar in IHEA's webinar series on sustainability and decarbonization. I'm Kelly LeCount, Education and Training Manager for the Industrial Heating Equipment Association. And on behalf of the association, we thank you for joining us. We're pleased to have Michael Stowe from Advanced Energy and Palomi Nandi from Oak Ridge National Laboratory present DOE tools and programs for greenhouse gas reduction. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that all attendees are on mute, so if you have any questions along the way, please type them in the questions panel. The speakers will address all your questions at the end of the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and available in the sustainability area of the IHEA website within the next few days. All attendees will receive a brief survey after the webinar, so please take a few moments to reply. We appreciate your feedback as IHEA continues our critical initiative for the industrial heat processing industry. Now I'd like to introduce the presenter for today's webinar. Michael Stowe is a senior engineer with Advanced Energy in Raleigh, North Carolina, specializing in industrial process energy efficiency and strategic energy management. He has over 30 years of experience working in manufacturing plants and implementing strategic energy management. Michael has extensive experience with many industrial processes and all types of plant facility support systems. We also want to welcome Palomi Nandi today. Palomi received her master's degree in electrical engineering and data analytics and has worked as an energy analyst for commercial and industrial customers. Her role as a senior building policy associate at Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, she's assisted in residential and commercial building energy code compliance studies and research grid interactive efficient buildings. Palomi is engaged in developing resource tools for greenhouse gas emissions, accounting, and reporting. She also engages with Better Plant partners to help develop emissions reduction plans to help them meet their emissions reduction goal. We thank you both for being here. Michael, let's get us started.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can. Thanks,
okay.
Michael.
Thank you. So welcome today. This is the third in our series of a very, very popular topic nowadays, greenhouse gas reduction, or as most people kind of lump it together and call it carbon or decarbonization or carbon emissions, and we'll see why carbon gets the title role in greenhouse gases in a little bit on the slide. But I want to do a little quick review and introduction of some greenhouse gas information, and then we're going to get a wealth of information on resources available to help you look at this. Again, you may have heard the term scope 1, 2, and 3 greenhouse gas emissions. There are additional scopes, but 1, 2, and 3 are the most frequently ones that are needed or used by end users or manufacturing sites or large commercial buildings. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then again, programs, resources, and tools for figuring out what this is and quantifying and seeing what your particular role or impact is on the carbon scene. So just a little bit of background on energy. It takes a lot of energy to manufacture things. This is an electric arc furnace, as you can imagine. It's like lightning, controlled lightning to melt steel or something like that. Very energy intense industry, but just a little bit of energy background quickly. This is called a Sankey diagram, and basically it takes everything on one side and then blends it, splits it, and ends up where it all goes. So all this on the left-hand side is all the energy sources, and this is just for the United States, and it is from 2021. It's fairly recent, and it's close to a total of 100 quadrillion BTUs. Quadrillion is 15 zeros, so it's million, billion, trillion, and then quadrillion. So that's more money than the federal government spends in terms of energy. So it's a really, really big number. And again, you can see the sources. And talking about decarbonization, natural gas, coal, petroleum, those are all fossil fuels that produce carbon dioxide when they're combusted, and you can see how much of those are used in the black, blue, and dark green lines. These are the renewable, solar, nuclear, or cleaner, no carbon, wind, geothermal. So you can see there's a little bit of that, and Electricity, cars, you can see transportation, quite a bit of petroleum, industrial, quite a bit of fossil fuels. So this just kind of shows the impact, and that's the commercial and industrial segment, which accounts for about a third of the total consumption. And again, this is focused on reducing your carbon dioxide or carbon footprint. So ways to think about this and from a manufacturing point of view is energy efficiency, whatever the processes are. The IHEA group is focused on industrial heating, and a lot of that is done with combustion, and some heating can be done with electricity, but you just want to maximize this or minimize the losses and maximize the value added of the energy you pay for. You know what you pay for. You have a gas bill or an electric bill. This is fairly simple to analyze. It goes into your system. This system can be one facility down to one single piece of equipment, but reduce the losses and again, impact on footprint. A little bit about scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. I have a picture of a John Deere tractor here, but what I want you to think about as we talk about scope 1, 2, and 3 is think about all the carbon dioxide or carbon that may be involved in the processes required to make this piece of equipment. Very complex, very complicated, lots of parts, but just, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around about, all these pieces and parts and where does the carbon dioxide come from that you would need to make this piece of equipment. Here's 7 of the major greenhouse gases. Typically, this is an equivalency chart in terms of if you make carbon dioxide have an impact of 1, looking at 100 years of global warming potential, you can see that carbon dioxide has a 1, but most of these are much, much, much worse than carbon. In fact, sulfur hexafluoride, for example, 22,800 times worse in terms of its impact on global warming than carbon dioxide. So why do we focus on carbon? Well, these are much more impactful, but they're just not as plentiful. They're just not as much of them. But we do need to monitor these and watch these. And you can see methane here. That's natural gas. It's much better actually to burn methane than to just let it leak because it's 25 times worse than carbon dioxide. But if you look at the total releases in 2020 and the sources, carbon dioxide was almost 80%. So if you look at these, all of these put together are only 20% or less, and carbon dioxide is around 80%. Methane is a big one, nitrous oxide, which is also a combustion component. Fluorinated gases, those are all the things in your air conditioning and refrigeration units, like R22, R410A, R134, things like that. And then you can see the segments. It's about four quarters. Industrial is about a quarter of it, electric power generation, transportation, and then commercial, residential, and agriculture together kind of add up to a quarter. But this is why typically when we talk about greenhouse gases, we talk about carbon footprint, because so much of the greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, which comes from combustion of coal, natural gas, and fuel oils. Basically, from a process heating point of view, just very basically, this is what is happening. This CH4 is methane, but this could be any carbon molecule for fuel oil, diesel, coal. You blend that with oxygen, which is in the atmosphere, and burn it, and you get carbon dioxide and water vapor and heat. The bottom line just shows that if you use air for combustion, the nitrogen, air is about 80% nitrogen and 20% oxygen. The nitrogen just passes through and doesn't react, but the oxygen combines with the carbon in the fossil fuel, creates carbon dioxide. That's the source of the problem, and that's where we get our heat. So when we produce heat with any type of combustion, carbon dioxide is released to the atmosphere. So that is scope 1, which we'll see in a little bit, combustion. Electricity also has a carbon component. We talk to a lot of people and they say, well, if we just electrify everything and get rid of our natural gas, we won't have a carbon footprint. Well, that's not true, because the electricity you consume has to be generated. And as we saw on the Sankey diagram, and you can see right here, a lot of the electricity is generated with a carbon based fuel, which produces carbon dioxide when it's combusted. So even now, today, well, 2021, but still, over 56 or so, 57% of all the electricity generated is from a fossil fuel source. So if you were to electrify a process, you would still have, you would eliminate the natural gas combustion possibly of a boiler, and now you have an electric boiler, but the electricity to run that boiler still has some carbon footprint. And those vary based on the area of the country you're in. These are carbon factors, pounds per megawatt hour. You can see in what a way to think about this is kind of clean electricity or dirty electricity from the carbon point of view. So you can see there's some down in the 500-600 range, there's some up in the thousands of pounds per megawatt hour. So it really is regionally based depending on where you are. In fact, we've actually done a study where electrifying a process actually increased the carbon footprint because of the electrical generation portfolio. So it's really something to keep in mind. Electricity is not magic. It's good. It's possible. Electrification may be a good thing to do and should definitely be considered, but it's not carbon free. Remember, there is a carbon content in electricity. These are the greenhouse gas scopes. This is right from the EPA. You see this, I see this chart in almost every presentation I go to these days. Scope 1, as I mentioned, we'll see some examples, but Scope 1 is direct combustion. If you have flame combustion processes in your plant or vehicles that support your manufacturing plant, that's Scope 1. Internal combustion, stationary combustion, that's Scope 1. You can have some control over this, and you're responsible for maintaining it and being efficient with it if at all possible. Scope 2 is indirect. You consume electricity that causes another company to consume natural gas. So that's a Scope 2. It's indirect. You're not creating the gas on your site, but you're consuming the electricity, and therefore someone else has to use natural gas to send you the electricity, the local utility. Scope 3 is everything else that you impact based on getting raw materials to your plant and then shipping them out. So here's some examples, but just to put this in perspective, you got direct emissions from stationary combustion. That's like a boiler, a furnace, an oven. You're burning something. Mobile combustion. The U.S. Post Office has 232,000 vehicles, and 99% of them right now are still internal combustion engines. That's huge. Scope 1 for the post office, just as an example. Again, Scope 2 is primarily electricity, because the electricity that you received, it may be generated by nuclear, hydro, but it also probably has some natural gas and coal. So there's some component in Scope 2. And then Scope 3, these 15 items are from the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, and these are things to consider. So you got to get the stuff to the plant. Think about the tractor again. You got to get steel, rubber, electrical, copper wiring, all kinds of glass, plastic, you name it, and all that stuff you purchase, and the processes and the transportation to get it here is Scope 3. And then after the tractor's built, shipping it, distributing it, how it's used in the field, and so forth, those are all upstream and downstream Scope 3. And then that's kind of a quick summary of Scope 1, 2, and 3. Again, Scope 1 and 2 is at the factory. That's where you have combustion or heat treat processes. And then that's just some background. And now Palomi's going to give us some really good input on how to take a look at that.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for the wonderful background. I think this makes my job much easier. Today, I'm here to basically talk about Department of Energy's Better Plants, Better Climate Challenge program, and what essentially you can get out of if you take part in the program. So what is this program? So U.S. Department of Energy launched the Better Plants program long time back. And the program basically asks U.S. manufacturing industry to voluntarily sign up for a pledge. So it's a voluntary program where you kind of pledge to reduce your energy intensity by 25% over 10 years across your U.S. operation. because this program is funded by U.S. Department of Energy, we majorly focus on facilities or organized facilities that are located in the United States. The company can be international, but as long as it has a U.S. footprint, we kind of help them reach this 25% energy intensity reduction goal. So energy intensity, we started with energy intensity. Now we have added water saving, waste reduction, so that has been added as well to this goal. As part of the program, because we're talking about sustainability, I think in 2021 or 2020, early 2022, we launched the Better Climate Challenge, which is kind of similar to setting a carbon reduction goal. So through this program, what you are doing is, again, voluntarily signing up for the program and setting a GHG emission reduction goal of 50% reduction over 10 years. So we majorly, part of this program majorly focuses on Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. RECs are allowed, so if you are buying renewable RECs or doing renewable purchases, those are allowed. Offsets are not allowed as part of this program. So offset would be something like funding for a project that's planting trees somewhere else. So those kind of projects are not considered towards your goal, towards reducing your carbon emissions. You can set a baseline year up to 5 years prior from the join date, as well as, and we encourage to set an absolute target. Absolute targets are the most robust target, which kind of shows continuous reduction of carbon emissions. As part of this goal, we also want our partners to set an energy efficiency target, because we feel energy efficiency is a key pillar for decarbonization. As well as if you are in energy intensive sector, you can set a lower target, but it has to be a minimum of 25% absolute reduction goal in Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. So I wanted to kind of show you there are different, I wouldn't say tiers, but different aspects of the program, and it depends on what you kind of sign up for. So we have Better Plans Program and Better Plans Challenge. It's all under the same umbrella. You get all similar resources, except one or two I will kind of go through in my presentation. But there are kind of different visibility, different requirements of the program, but ever so slightly. So Better Plans Program, you are committing through this program. Basically, you're committing to reporting your corporate energy performance. You have to submit an annual report, so it's energy report, and then what you would have is a monthly call with TAM, and I will go in detail what a TAM is. I'm essentially a TAM, but it's technical accounts managers is what we call, and then develop a baseline with us. And the benefits of, again, through all of these different pillars different tiers that I'm showing on the screen, you also get technical assistance, recognition, you get the opportunity to network with other peers. So we have multiple manufacturing facilities, and then you also get access to training, and then R&D resources through all DOE's national labs. So DOE has a couple of national labs. We are based out of Oak Ridge National Lab, who kind of helps run the Better Plans program. We also have a Better Buildings. It's kind of, under the same umbrella. Better Plans kind of focuses on U.S. manufacturing industry, whereas Better Buildings focuses on multifamily commercial buildings, those kind of building structures. As part of Better Plans Challenge program, you are kind of doing the same thing that I mentioned under Better Plans program. Better Plans Challenge, you have to also do a data display. So all that annual report, data reporting that you do, we want to kind of showcase your project, progress towards the program. And so we do a data display that kind of shows your progress over 10 years. We also ask partners to share showcase projects or implementation models. So those are essentially our ways of showcasing our partners all the good stuff that they're doing. Decarbonization project, energy efficiency project, energy management projects, anything that you're doing, we want to showcase that. And as part of Better Climate Challenge, again, you're doing kind of the same thing as well. And then as part of the benefit, the extra thing that we have started as part of the Better Climate Challenge is doing workshops. So I'll go into much detail later what a workshop entails. But for all these different programs, whichever you take part in doesn't matter, but you do get the technical assistance. And there are actual technical experts like me and my colleagues. I have 15 other colleagues, if not more, in other places as well, who kind of helps you get from your goal to your, from your baseline to your goal. We provide you with tools, resources, and I'll go through all that in detail. So why do companies want to join Better Plans programs, right? So it's part of industrial leadership. When you set a goal with us or any other goal, it kind of sets the benchmark and shows that you are committed to a sustainability effort, right? We also, through our program, we give national recognition. Again, as I mentioned, because we have so many partners in our program, you get to talk to each other. Many of my partners talk to other companies and learn from them. We learn better. I feel like we learn better when we see what others are doing, kind of learn from their mistakes and their achievements. So that is what you get out of this. And then Better Building Solution Center, again, I'll go through more of that, but that has huge amount of resources. The amount of resources there is, it's unimaginable. We have case studies, tools, documents, webinar recordings, everything is in there. The second piece is the technical assistance. You would have an access to technical account managers. So it would be somebody like me who kind of knows how to do some of these things inside your facility, right? So we will help you with training. We usually, at least as part of Better Plans program, we keep in touch with you. It's not just a reporting. We talk to you almost every month if that's what you want, every 6 months if that works for you, right? Again, we walk you through the tools and resources and give you proper training. We have one-on-one sessions where you can kind of ask questions, and we want to help you. We also, as I mentioned, we provide these trainings, and that helps you develop the workforce inside your facility, and that's a very important thing. There's constant churn of people inside your facility. We want to train them and bring them up to speed of what they should be doing in terms of sustainability efforts. As part of this program, you also get access to all the DOE national labs. So I think there are, again, 5 or 6 or 7 of them. You get to learn from these labs what are some of those technologies that we are working on, what are some of the things that we can help you with. If you are looking help in R&D space for technology, that's another way you can connect with us through this program. Okay, there you go. So as part of this program, I wanted to share the impact of this program. Till date, we have helped our partners save about $10.6 million and about 2.2 quadrillion BTUs. We have over 270 manufacturing partners, so that I mean individual companies, and then individual companies have over 3,600 facilities with us. On an average, we have helped these companies reduce their annual energy intensity by 1.8%. We have partners in different sectors that have highlighted here, so automotive transportation, food, any consumer goods, metals, chemicals, you name it, and probably we have it. There's one missing here, that's pharmaceutical is another one. So we have many different types of companies. We have wastewater facilities as well. So there's a wide array of manufacturing facilities, and I think everybody gets to learn from everybody. You get definitely, if you're in the same manufacturing area, it's easier to learn, but I think there are other things that other sectors do might be also applicable to, say, for example, automotive is doing something that might be something that might be applicable to food or, say, chemical manufacturing, right? So there's a good it's a very good pot in terms of learning from each other, doing innovation, research, understanding, peer exchange. Sorry. Okay, there you go. So as part of the program, what starts off, I wanted to kind of give you an idea of how this program works. So if you sign up for the program, you get assigned a technical account manager. So we will have a kickoff call with you. We kind of go through, hey, these are the resources we have, and we have that discussion. Where are some of your barriers? What are you struggling with? Once we have identified some of those, we kind of start giving information to you in terms of tools or resources, or how to help you do your baselining and tracking of your energy and carbon, right? We also help you through trainings and resources. How do you identify projects, quantify energy saving projects or GHG emission reduction projects? And that can be through IEC assessments, and I'll go through what IEC assessments are. 50,000 Ready Navigator, we have our own tool, which we call the Measure Suite. Again, I'll go through all of that. And then we want you to implement. Once you have those projects identified, you implement those projects. And as you are doing that, we want to also recognize and provide that recognition of the amazing projects that you have implemented. So we have that. And as you keep doing this over and over again, hopefully you will reduce your energy and carbon emissions, and then you become a goal achiever. And again, there's more awards and recognition as part of that as well. So I mentioned technical account manager. What are those, right? They're actual human beings that talk to you. It's not a robot or an email address that you're emailing to, which is kind of very nice. There's an actual human being who's talking to you and providing resources. We all have our own area of expertise. So say, for example, if I don't know an answer, I would ask my colleague to come on and kind of help you kind of answer those questions that you might have. So it's basically what we are is technical resources for you. If you have a question regarding, hey, how do I do this? We probably will either provide you with resources or tools, or essentially kind of walk you through how to do that. We also have a lot of information in terms of what DOE funding opportunities or DOE resource, other labs that what they are doing, what tools they're developing. So we kind of help make those contacts as well. So we become that go-to person to ask those questions, and we want to help you get there. So I wanted to go through a couple of tools that we have. Again, this is a lot of information. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat, and I'm happy to go in more detail. And for most of those tools, I have these blue boxes that has the links to all of these tools as well. So feel free to kind of play around with them. Most of our tools, if not all of them, if there are any that are not accessible to everybody, I will let you know, but most of our tools are open source and free to use for anybody. You don't have to be part of Better Plans program to use it, but these are good tools to use as well. So I'll start off with Verify. So this is basically an energy management utility dashboard tool. We usually, for tracking our energy performance, we used to do regression-based analysis, and we used to do that in Excel. And if we all have used Excel, probably everybody on this call has, they tend to break and they tend to be buggy. So we were sick and tired of using Excel, so we moved to software-based tool. You can download it as an application. You can use it in a web version. Any data that you put in does not get shared with us, does not get shared with DOE. So we don't have access, but you can use this tool still. So you can put in your facility level or corporate level energy data, utility bill data. So you can do your Scope 1 emissions, so natural gas, propane, name the fuel, and we probably have it in this list. Or you can do Scope 2, which is electricity, right, or steam, or process cooling or something like that, if you're purchasing that, right? So you can put in that data in here and kind of see your energy, track your energy use of year over year, or you can do analysis, regression analysis, if that's what you want. You can also, we are keeping on adding new things in here. So right now we are working on the carbon piece. We still have carbon in there, but we are missing mobile emissions and fugitive emissions. So we are in works of putting it in there. You can also generate reports. And then it also has these amazing visuals where you can kind of see the trend and how much, and you can, as I mentioned, you can do it at facility level and corporate level. It kind of rolls up to your corporate level if you're doing it at facility level. 50,001 Ready Navigator tool. This is not something that ORNL kind of manages. It's under LBNL, but it helps you. It is a TurboTax approach to 50,001 Ready. ISO 50001 Ready compliance, energy management compliance. It has like 25 different tasks divided into 4 different sessions, and it has so much good guidance how to set up a robust energy management system inside your facility. This is an amazing tool. Many of my partners have used this, even though they're very ahead in their energy and sustainability efforts, they still use this to kind of make sure that energy management piece is robust. Because if you don't get good data, you don't know what you're tracking against. Bad data does not help you. So this is another great tool that many of our partners use and have only good things to say about. Measure. This is another software-based tool. So these were all different. Previously, DOE had a lot of different tools and software calculators that has been developed by different teams over the years. What we have done is put all those tools in one place so that you know you don't have to keep searching on the web. It's like, how do I do this, or how do I calculate this, and find different tools, right? So we have put in all those tools into what we call Measure. Again, this is an application-based tool as well as website-based tool. Whatever data you put in, your data, we don't get to see it. But it is open source and helps you kind of quantify and do assessments essentially on different systems. So we have pumps, fans, compressed air, process heating, other things maybe I'm missing here, refrigeration, cooling, and all of that good stuff. And again, this is another thing that we keep on adding new stuff to. So they have assessment modules, as I said, and then 70 standalone calculator. And I almost am certain that number for 70 standalone calculators has gone up because every single day we are adding something new in there. But it also helps you kind of not only track your emissions, energy, but it also calculates your carbon emissions for those systems. As I mentioned, like they have wastewater, process heating, compressed air. There are treasure hunt modules in there as well. So if you do energy treasure hunts as part of your sustainability efforts within your facility, you can put in those in here. There are calculators that can help you do those treasure hunts, calculate some of those information, and then put it in your treasure hunt module, and it kind of neatly exports a presentation that you can use to present your upper management. So this is a very nifty tool as well. The next one I mentioned as part of the program, we helped in water saving as well. So this is one of those tools that we have to kind of understand what is the true cost of water. Water is becoming slowly a very costly commodity in certain parts of the country, and it tends to be very costly. We just don't understand how sometimes it is. because you not only are buying, but you're processing that water with chemicals, so that adds cost to it. You are trying to pump it, so you're using electrical energy to do that. And then you have to, after the use, you have to either clean it before you kind of discharge it, right? So this kind of tools help you not only understand your baseline, but also helps you understand the cost of water, and also kind of helps you quantify that, understand the water balance. So how much water you're buying and how much water you're discharging. You want to understand where your water usages are, and if you are wasting water somewhere. So this is, again, another great tool. This is an Excel-based tool, but it's really good to use, and it has really good information. Switching a little bit and going into decarbonization-based tool. So we have plant carbon footprint and decarbonization assessment tool. So this tool is currently something that I'm working with and helping develop. What this does, it helps you quantify at a facility level what your scope 1, scope 2 emissions are, and then helps you kind of develop scenarios, decarbonization scenarios. What will happen, like Michael was saying, right? Like, what happens if I electrify all my systems? What does your energy carbon footprint look like, right? Or what happens if I am switching to low carbon fuel? So this tool would help you do that. This is something, we have a version in there, and I think it only right now does scope 1 and scope 2. And we are in the process of developing decarbonization scenarios. Almost there, we should have it in a couple of months. But this is, again, is a very powerful tool, which kind of helps you not only understand scenario-based what's happening at the facility, but it kind of breaks down into systems. So once you say, okay, these are some of the systems I have, and this is my energy use for those systems, what happens if I'm electrifying or switching to low carbon or buying a bunch of renewable energy? How does my scope 1, scope 2 emissions change, right? So this is, again, very powerful tool, which is an Excel-based tool. This is an implementation tool. Many of our partners have identified numerous projects, but they don't know how they add up and roll up to corporate level. This is another very good tool where you can put in your projects and kind of at a corporate level quantify what percent reduction you're going to gain from doing all of these projects. It also has a little bit of cost calculation, not cost calculation, but if you have an estimated cost, it kind of gives you an idea of how much dollars you have to spend to get those projects done. So this is another very good tool as well. Again, Excel-based tool. Decarbonization action plan tool. This is a very good tool if you're starting off thinking about decarbonization. It's like, hey, this is my scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. So how do I get from my baseline, again, if it's my 50% reduction, 75% reduction, net zero, right? What are some of the things that I can do to get to that goal, right? The other amazing piece that I really like about this tool is it has a section which is called barriers. And part of this tool is not one person sitting and working on these tools. The other ones are kind of like that, where whoever is kind of in charge of projects and things like that, they kind of can sit. But this is more a planning tool. This is something that you would use to plan with your sustainability team. Kind of go through, understand what your scope 1 emissions are, scope 2 emissions are, which are some of the decarbonization pillars, like energy efficiency or electrification or low carbon fuel switching. What are some of the potential you might have within your corporation? Also talk to that barrier piece. I think that is a really good. We went through this exercise with about 30 companies, and they were really happy that there was this barrier section, because that kind of brought out the different barriers that are inside the company. And that was a very good conversation to kind of also identify, it's like, okay, these are some of the barriers. If it's a barrier regarding tools or trainings or resources, that is something that we can help you with, right? But if it's a finance barrier, we can educate you, but then you can take that and go to your corporate managers and say, hey, these are our biggest barriers, help us kind of figure out. So I think that's a very good piece of this as well, this tool as well. Again, this is also Excel-based tool. A couple of other software-based tools that we have is electrification for decarbonization. This is a very quick and easy way to calculate, hey, I have a natural gas boiler and I want to electrify that boiler. And it's MMBTU per, like the consumption. And what is going to be, if I electrify, what is going to be my carbon impact? What is going to be my emissions impact? What is going to be my peak load? Because when you switch to electric systems, there is an increase in your electric demand, right? So you have to understand that as well. So this tool kind of helps you do a very quick and dirty calculations in terms of electrification. Carbon emissions calculator, this one is essentially kind of helps you do a scenario, and again, very quick and dirty as well. But what it does is you can say, okay, this is my natural gas consumption, and I want to reduce it by 5% or 10%. What happens to my emissions? So it can do stationary emissions, so any of those fuels that you're using for your stationary emissions. You can do scope 2, fugitive emissions, mobile emissions, and based on, you can put for your scope 2 emissions, you can put in your, I think by zip code, I think it does, or you can also select which part of the grid it is. So it kind of helps you compare the carbon emissions for a scenario. The compressed air scoping tool, I wanted to kind of talk about this particular tool a little bit because this is kind of a benchmarking tool for compressed air systems. And I think that's, again, a great tool to have. So it goes through a questionnaire of asking different ways you are currently using your compressed air system, and it generates a report card. Again, this is an Excel-based tool. It helps you benchmark your compressed air system, which is, again, good to know, right? If compressed air is a very big energy consumer. In-plant trainings, we provide a lot of trainings to our partners. So we have provided in-plant trainings since 2011, and we provide trainings in all of these systems that are listed down there: pump system, fan system, compressed air system. What happens is a DOE expert goes into your facility and trains you on those systems. Not only the basics of how the system works, but helps you kind of, how do you identify energy saving opportunities, helps you quantify those. These are hands-on trainings that you get as part of the program. During COVID, we also went virtual, and we have continued doing that virtual. So there are virtual in-plant trainings as well on these similar systems. That way you're sitting in your facility, but you take part in these trainings and get trained on some of these really good systems that you have in your facility. I think that's another great one. If you cannot do in-person activity, you can do it virtually as well. Other technical assistance, tools, and resources. So we have diagnostic equipment program. As part of the program, if you want equipment to help you quantify or measure your energy consumption, we have that. We have power meters, voltage meter, current meters, fluke meters, thermocouples, all of this, and we can loan you that. We loan for about a week. Depending on what you're trying to do, we have experts inside our lab that kind of talks to you, understands what you're trying to measure, and we will send you a customized kit for that. Or you can say, hey, I want to do an energy treasure hunt. We have some standard kits as well. So you get these for 1 month and 1 week, 1 week, and then you can use those, measure that, and then go from there. Like you have actual data, measured data to quantify some of those savings. As part of the Better Climate Challenge, we have working groups. This is something that we have only offered to our Better Climate Challenge, which is our carbon reduction initiative. And goal of these is kind of facilitating discussions between partners in a small group environment. So we have done 2 already, which is emission reduction planning and electrification. And what that does is emission reduction planning, I kind of headed that as a technical lead on O&L side. We help kind of discuss with our partners, how do you build that roadmap of like, hey, this is where I am with my emissions to reach my 50%, 75% or net zero goal. What are some of the things I can do? What are some of my major barriers? What are some of the technology I should know about? And kind of developing that beautiful waterfall chart that I, again, see everybody making to kind of figure out what your roadmap will look like for the next 10 years or 15 years, how long of your goal is. So we have done that, and like that is essentially, we have different topics. Again, we have electrification. The 3 new ones that we're starting as part of Better Climate Challenges: emission reduction audits, on-site renewable energy storage, and then low carbon, low emissions alternative to industrial thermal loads. So these are going to be specific topic discussions, and how do you do that? What are some of the things to consider are being discussed. The biggest thing I would say about these are you get the opportunity to talk to your peers. You have all the different manufacturing facilities come and discuss some of these issues, as well as solutions that they have come up with. Better Building Solution Center, amazing place to visit. I do not see, I have a link, but I will send that link out in the email, maybe follow-up email. But this is another thing. Again, you don't have to be part of the program to access this. You can go to our Better Building Solution Center website. We have case studies, we have resources, we have webinars, we have success stories, we have tip sheets, calculators, you name it, and we possibly have it. We have different focus areas. Like there's so much in there. If you go in there, know that you might get lost because there's so much, but it's really good as well. Recognition and awards. As part of the program, we want to highlight partners that are doing amazing things. We want to not only highlight for them, but also help take that opportunity to educate the other people who are struggling with some of these things. Knowing what other people are doing kind of helps, again, other partners to learn from. So we do better practice, better project recognition awards. So you can put in an application saying, hey, I have done this amazing thing. And if it's a really good project, we want to recognize that. So every year we do this. Every year we would go through and ask partners, hey, submit your application for your Better Plans project or practice award. Companies can self-nominate and write those applications, again, as part of the program, or HAMS can help you kind of write these as well. As I mentioned, as part of the program, you get access to these national labs. So we do tours. You can view demonstration and innovation technologies that we have in our labs. You can hear from technical experts inside these in these labs as well. We can learn and do research partnership if that is something that you are interested in. And again, as part of these, these are what we call technology days. So we did an Oak Ridge National Lab in 2017. You can see an NREL in 2018. Due to COVID, we had stopped it, but this year again, it's coming back to ORNL, and we get to showcase all the good, cool things that we do in our national labs. Boot camp, another quick thing. Again, a great training opportunity. You come to Oak Ridge National Lab. You get to visit Tennessee, but you also get trained on energy fundamentals. So we start with basic energy fundamentals, how to understand your utility bills and things like that, but also go through each of these systems like compressed air, process heating, steam, boilers, pumps, fans. We go through it and kind of teach you how these processes work, how can you quantify savings, what are some of the common energy saving opportunities. And then we have tools in there. So you can see in those pictures, we have demonstration of some of these equipment, so pumps and compressed air systems and boilers, process heating system. We have actual small demonstration of these, and we kind of go through the process and kind of show you where to measure some of these readings as well. So this is another great thing you can take part as part of the program. Similar to Energy Bootcamp, we have a decarbonization bootcamp where we're focusing on not processes, but decarbonization pillars. So energy efficiency, low carbon fuel switching, electrification, and things like that. Again, you come to RNL, you get to visit Tennessee, our lab as well, but we teach you on the fundamentals of some of these technology pillars. What are some of the trends that you should be knowing of? What are some of the technologies you should be knowing of? What are some of the tools and resources that you want to use to quantify some of these savings? We also do a number of events, networking events. So we all have our annual Better Buildings, Better Plans Summit. We also kind of take part in Industrial Energy Technology Conference, AEE World, and all of these conferences that we take part in, we try to highlight our partners as well. So this is, again, a great opportunity, not for just pure exchange, but also kind of giving different platforms to our partners for recognition. So most of our goal achiever has a couple of things in common. So far, we have 67 energy goal achievements. I think that number is still higher. I might have an older number here, but the key characteristics that they have is they have a really good energy management system, and they continuously are talking to their upper management about their energy efficiency or decarbonization efforts. They use actual data-driven approach, so they have good data, and we kind of help you get there. We kind of want you to get good data from your facilities or even corporate level, whatever it is, to help identify those energy saving opportunities. We also encourage collaboration with other departments within your organization. You need to talk to other departments and kind of figure out different ideas on the table can definitely help push your sustainability effort within your organization. And then they also communicate their energy efficiency, energy saving successes. So we help them do that through our networking, our media, our recognition program, but they also kind of do themselves internally. They have their own media presence, they have their own ESG reports and other reports that they keep talking about the good stuff that they have done. And again, they have all leveraged our guidance, our tools, and I think they have found very useful. If not all parts of the tool, parts of the program are useful to them, but there are definitely some parts that they find very useful. Okay, back over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Palome. That was great. Appreciate that. And just as a data point, at Advanced Energy, we use a lot of those tools all the time when we work with Oak Ridge and Better Plants. And there's tremendous resources. If you have questions or anything about that stuff, let us know. But there is just a lot of resources there that are available. And again, most of it's available, open sourced, free. Whether you're in the Better Plants program or not, we work with a lot of the Better Plants program. We work with Oak Ridge in the in-plant trainings and so forth. So it's a great resource that's available to you, and it's great to hear about that. And again, just a couple summary points, and then we'll have some time for a few questions, hopefully. But energy management, strategic energy management in any form, it can be based on ISO 50001 or other processes and programs. Is a great way to help you manage your carbon. Most of the carbon comes from energy consumption. There's fugitive emissions and leaks and other things, but a lot of the energy that you consume is where you get your carbon footprint. So understanding those sources will help you understanding your energy will help you understand your carbon and calculate it and evaluate it and so forth. And again, there's many resources that we touched on today. So with that, we'll look into some questions. I see one, Kelly. I just see one in the question box. It
I have
says,
a few here, Michael. So
okay.
you want to go ahead and address that first one, and I can go through the others with you.
Yeah, I see that. One I see says, based on what I'm hearing in this presentation, these are all voluntary. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time scrolling. It keeps jumping around. These are all voluntary programs. Can you see that one, Kelly? That I
Yep.
can use to reduce my carbon footprint. When do you think future legislation will?
Revolve.
Yeah,
Same
will
one.
revolve around these. Yeah. So that's a great question, and I'll make a comment below me. You can jump in too. But we do see a lot of these programs are voluntary. A lot of the carbon accounting is voluntary. But I think a lot of companies are seeing the potential for it to become statutory or even taxed at some point down the road. In Europe, there's a lot of things going on relative to carbon and energy consumption. So I think basically we see three groups of people. We see early adopters that are getting ahead of the curve. We see what I call the wait and seers. We're going to wait and see what happens. And then there's the group that'll have to be dragged screaming and crying into the decarbonization into future. So Paloma, please comment on that.
It does go
Yeah,
into will companies be required to comply to some quantifiable reduction in the next 5 or 10 years?
so yeah, to kind of answer both those questions, yes. So these are the program I was talking about, Better Plans, Better Climate Challenge. These are voluntary. Most of the programs, like you can hear about right now in decarbonization, are also voluntary. But companies are taking these very seriously, because even though these are voluntary, their stakeholders, their supply chain, somebody else is asking these questions: are you sustainable or not? So even if you are kicking and screaming, you are getting there, because your customers, your supply chain, your clients are going to ask this. And this is why more and more companies are getting kind of pushed into decarbonization. If you don't even like it, you have to do it. And yeah, as Michael mentioned, like there's, I think, more robustness in Europe, and it's slowly moving to US as well. I don't have a date when this will happen, but I know more and more companies are coming and telling us, like, hey, we did not have a goal. Now we want to set a goal because our clients or stakeholders are asking for this. So it is coming. If not, it's already here.
It's here. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go back just a little bit. There's another question here. How do I know my Scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions are not being counted as my vendor's Scope 1?
Yeah, that I tell people, one person's trash is another person's treasure, but and that will have to be determined in accounting, because that's exactly right. And your Scope 3 is somebody else's Scope 1 and 2. It's all overlapping and interconnected. And so who accounts for what? Or if you're accounting for your Scope 1 and your Scope 2, that same carbon may be accounted for in somebody else's Scope 1, especially with your Scope 3. That's all going to be somebody else's Scope 1 and 2. Palomi, what do you think?
I agree with you, Michael. So essentially what I tell my partners or my companies is draw a line across your boundary. Whatever you're buying, or like whatever energy you're buying, gets accounted under it. And as you mentioned, somebody else's Scope 1 and 2 becomes somebody else's Scope 3. So, but make sure that you have the right data for reporting. I have seen lack of data or not being reported correctly. So make sure that either you follow GHG protocol. That's essentially what protocol everybody is following to report their Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions. So follow your GHG protocol rules and regulations for reporting purposes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you guys both. I know there are a few more questions showing here, but we will answer those via email. So just know if you did type a question in the question pane, we will get back to you with answers. I will send those out to Michael and Palomi, and we'll get those taken care of for you. So thank you all for attending our webinar today. Special thanks to Michael and Palomi for the great information. And just remember to visit the IHEA website, www.ihea.org, and you can click on the sustainability tab on that menu bar for more information. You can also register for our final webinar in this series that's scheduled on August 24th. So watch for that link to the survey and take a few moments to share your feedback with us, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.